Johnny Carson, the man who changed American talk shows. Close your eyes for just a moment and picture yourself in America sometime in the mid-1970s. It's late at night. The kids are finally in bed. The dishes are done. And in the living room, a family gathers around a big, boxy TV set, the kind many families still had, sometimes taking a moment to warm up, glowing faintly before the picture came into focus. The familiar music begins to play. The audience erupts in applause. And then comes that voice, booming with excitement, Ed McMahon's legendary introduction.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
The curtain sweeps open. A tall, lean man steps onto the stage, wearing that sly, mischievous smile. He waves, pauses, and tilts his head ever so slightly. And just like that, millions of Americans smile with him. That man was Johnny Carson, the man who would be crowned the king of late night. The man who defined the talk show. And in many ways, the man who helped define American television itself. From a shy boy to the man in the spotlight. Johnny Carson was born on October 23, 1925, in Corning, Iowa, and raised in Norfolk, Nebraska. As a child, he was shy, quiet, the kind of boy who preferred the corner of a room rather than the center of attention. But he had a secret, a deck of cards, a magician's hat, magic. With magic, young Johnny discovered something extraordinary. Behind a trick, a disappearing coin or a floating card, he could stand in front of people without fear. Magic gave him courage. Magic gave him a stage. After serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II, Carson returned home and studied radio broadcasting. That's when he realized he didn't just love magic. He loved people. He loved timing, that split second when an audience leaned forward, waiting for a punchline, and then burst out laughing. Carson had found his true calling. The 1950s were the golden dawn of American television. Families gathered around black and white sets, adjusting antennas just to catch a signal. TV was new, fresh, full of promise. And Johnny Carson was hungry. In 1957, he landed a job hosting a small game show that began as Do You Trust Your Wife? Before being retitled Who Do You Trust? It wasn't glamorous. The set was simple. The prizes were small. But for Carson, it was the perfect training ground. Night after night, he sharpened his wit. He learned how to keep the audience entertained, how to poke fun without hurting feelings, and most importantly, how to make the person sitting across from him feel like the star of the show. Sometimes contestants would freeze up, stumble on words, or give awkward answers. And Johnny had a gift. He could turn those moments into comedy without embarrassing anyone. It was a lesson he would carry for the rest of his career. That single skill, the ability to make others shine, would later define him. On October 1st, 1962, Johnny Carson stepped onto the stage of NBC's The Tonight Show, taking over after Jack Paar had left earlier that year. Nobody knew it then. But that night marked the beginning of one of the longest, most beloved reigns in television history. For the next 3 decades, 1962 to 1992, Carson didn't just host a late-night talk show. He created a ritual. Across the country, from bustling cities to sleepy towns, people tuned in not just for laughs, but for comfort. For company. For the simple joy of ending the day with a familiar face. For millions of Americans, the late-night hour wasn't complete until they heard Ed McMahon's legendary call. Here's Johnny. He wasn't loud or brash, though when the moment called for it, his playful energy lit up the room. Johnny Carson was a master of subtlety. He knew the magic of a well-timed pause. He could land a joke with nothing more than a raised eyebrow. He teased without cruelty. He charmed without arrogance. And most importantly, he let his guests shine. Whether it was a Hollywood legend or a complete unknown, Johnny Carson had a way of making people feel important. He listened. He laughed. He gave them space to be themselves. That was his secret. And that's why America trusted him. Over 3 decades, Carson delivered countless moments that became part of America's collective memory. Ed McMahon's booming introduction, echoing through living rooms across the country. The animal segments, Johnny leaping back in mock terror as a baby tiger lunged, or breaking into laughter as a chimp tugged at his hair. The monologues that poked fun at politics, culture, and the everyday absurdities of life. And of course, those magical nights when a young comedian stood on his stage for the very first time. It was said in show business, if you could make Johnny Carson laugh, the rest of America would know your name by morning. And it was true. From David Letterman to Jay Leno, from Joan Rivers to Jerry Seinfeld, countless stars found their careers launched from Carson's stage. But Johnny was more than a comedian. He was a reflection of America itself. Through the turbulence of the Vietnam War, through the Watergate scandal, through the cultural revolutions of the 70s and 80s, Carson was there. Night after night, he helped the country process it all, not with lectures, not with speeches, but with a smile and a punchline. And along the way, he built the template for every late-night show that followed, the opening monologue, the celebrity interviews, the comedy sketches, and the playful banter with his sidekick, Ed McMahon. That formula is so enduring that even decades later, it remains the blueprint for late-night television. And it all began with Johnny. May 22, 1992. Johnny Carson walked onto the Tonight Show stage for the very last time. No fireworks. No gimmicks. No grand spectacle. Just Johnny. Sitting quietly. Looking into the camera with that familiar warmth. And he told viewers he would miss them, and that if he could do it again, he'd do it the same way. That night, an estimated 50 million Americans tuned in. The nation didn't just say goodbye to a television host. They said goodbye to a friend. Today, when you watch David Letterman, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, you are watching the late-night tradition Johnny Carson built. He didn't just create a show. He created a tradition. He gave America something rare, 3 decades of laughter, companionship, and a reason to smile before bed. Johnny Carson reminded us all that no matter how long or difficult the day had been, when the clock struck late, you could turn on the TV and feel like you were among friends. That is his everlasting gift. Johnny Carson wasn't just a television host. He was part of America's family. Because legends never truly leave us, they live on in the laughter, the memories, and the echoes of a voice that once said, "Here's Johnny." If this story brought back memories for you, if you can still hear Ed McMahon's voice echoing in your head, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. And share your favorite Johnny Carson memory down in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Because together, we'll keep revisiting the golden moments of American television, stories that shaped a generation, and memories worth sharing again. And who knows, maybe the next time you hear those 3 words, "Here's Johnny," you'll find yourself smiling once more.